And we're live. This is very exciting. Thanks for joining our session on quality management in cadastral surveying on the second day of the e-working week here live from Apeldoorn and the Netherlands and the rest of the world. We're having a discussion today on quality management in cadastral surveying with a lot of attendees from all around the world. So please let me introduce you. We have Tim Hodson, all the way from the USA, presenting on integrating least squares analysis with GIS for cadastral data quality enhancements. Second, we have Amir Barmoar, who's from the Netherlands, who is presenting on quality management for cadastral systems. We also have Leikni Gammelmoe from Norway, who's presenting on measuring data quality of cadastral data. We have Dennis, and let me pronounce it correctly, Tabucic from Bosnia-Herzegovina, presenting on data integration and interoperability of public land administration services in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And thanks for joining. And we have Ludmila Pieczak, but I was allowed to call her Milka today. And she's all the way from Poland, presenting on land surveyors in the age of technical revolutions. And last but not least, we have Andriy Matin joining from Ukraine. And he will be presenting on research of land surveying industry in Ukraine through the creation of an electronic register of land surveying documentation. So thanks all of you for joining virtually. I hope if the audience have questions, they can drop them in the Q&A. We will first do all the presentations and we will get back to your questions afterwards. And of course, would like to have you fully engaged. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the Q&A and we'll come back to that later. And of course, not to forget, we have technical support today from Jan. So Jan Spijkerboer, thanks a lot for helping us out in Hop-in this virtual environment of the e-working week. And we have Chetna Ben all the way from beautiful Fiji to be the rapporteur of this session. And my name is Sanne Hekman and I work for the Dutch Cadastre in the Netherlands. And I'll be your chair for today. So we're going to start first with Tim. I'm going to give you the stage.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. My name is Tim Hodson. I work for Esri. I'm a product engineer on the parcel fabric technology. And my presentation is basically going to be a demonstration of the software. So in here, you can see that we have a geodatabase. Inside the geodatabase, we have a featured data set, and the featured data set contains a parcel fabric. A parcel fabric is a controller data set that is used to manage feature classes.
We don't see any presentation. Did you share your screen properly?
I thought I did. Aha.
I think you have to choose the screen.
Yes. How's that?
Perfect. We see partials. Yep. Server network.
Yeah. All right. Great. Okay. So here's my geodatabase. It's a file geodatabase. You can see it is data from Dutch Cadastre, and we have a featured data set. This is this specifies things like a projection and things like that for the coordinate system. And then here we have what I was talking about earlier, and you didn't see, was the parcel fabric data set, and it is a controller data set. So if we look at its properties, we can see that we have different parcel types and different feature classes that are used to manage this parcel data. Each parcel type is defined by a polygon feature class and a line feature class. So here you can see that we have a parcel type, parcel type, a parcel type called parcel, and a parcel type called structures. So in this data set, we've kind of worked in this particular area, and we've started to add the information into the parcel fabric. So we have polygons and lines, and we also have some connection information. So our connection information allows us to connect from our control points via directions and distances to our other points of the parcels, and also to our structures. So you can see that we've come parallel from this building edge using the same direction, but just 180 degrees different in the specific distance to this location. And in our table of contents, I'm going to turn off some of our layers here so we can get a closer look to see what we have here. I'm going to turn off my parcel type and look only at structures and connection lines. So you can see that we have a connection line from our control points, and some of our lines only have distances on them, and some of them have distances and directions. Really what we can see here is that we have the differences in directions actually define an angle, and these angles and distances are all used in a least squares adjustment to come up with the best fit for all of the data together. So since I have only 5 minutes or maybe some more time, I can do a least squares adjustment quickly now so we can get the full picture of what we're doing here. So I'm going to take this entire block here of the data, and we can see that we have a control point at this location here and a control point at this location here, and all of the connecting information for this entire area. So I'm going to go ahead and use the selection tool and select all of my lines. And then I'm going to go to my quality ribbon here. I'm seeing some interesting behavior here. Is everyone still there?
We're still with you, Tim.
Okay, yeah, I'm just seeing some strange behavior in this software because maybe sharing screen, but we'll continue to try here. Oops.
We now have a hop-on inception.
Okay, something very strange has happened. I think I'm seeing some conflict with the sharing and the demonstration.
Yeah, are you trying it now to get back up and running?
Yes. Can you still see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is this
I think
how
I'm
it's
going to
supposed
just
to
switch to slides here.
be? Okay. Do you want another presenter to go first?
It's just
If
very
you say-
slow here.
It's okay.
I'll tell you what. Okay, let me. Yeah, I think that's maybe we can. I can maybe switch to slides, or maybe I can let another presenter go first, and I can try to sort out my problem.
Yes, that sounds like a good idea. Tim, thanks for trying. Give us a heads up when it's either working or when you have put it in slides. I see that Okan Yildiz from Turkey has also joined our team. So now we're fully complete. Thanks for joining from the stage all the way from Turkey. Then next up is Amir Barmao from the Netherlands. And I'd like to give you the stage. You're on your presentation on quality management for cadastral systems.
Thank you, Zanne. Just showing a picture when I used to be young and had hair before. And now I can go a bit into the subject. If you saw Jack's keynote yesterday, he was referring to what we call a system of record, and all cadastral systems are primarily a system of record, and keep and store features that are related to their legal source, the legal recorded information. We know how important cadastral data is. It's a foundation for many other data sets, and it is crucial for every functioning economy. You can see here that in Australia, they defined a vision for Cadastre 2034, in which people can trust confidently identify their location. So building trust requires high quality of data. We know that, of course, in every cadastral system, data was collected over many decades in different levels of quality, different accuracies, different reliabilities. We also know that business requirements keep changing. What the business requirements 50 years ago are not what we have today, for example. And on the other hand, we have a lot of parties that consume the data, use it in different ways. And we are also being constrained to legal frameworks that might also change, like 3D Cadastre coming as a new legislation and so on. And people, the public, also have their own expectation. They walk around with their device and they expect to see current data that they can trust at any point of time from any device at home or in the field. And then quality is also part of the fit for purpose theme, because quality should not be uniform everywhere. Different areas can have different quality requirements, and different organizations, different countries also have different legal frameworks, different data issues, different priorities, different business requirements. And then when they are able to evaluate their data, they also have different resources they can put to address those quality issues. So quality should also fits well into the fit for purpose theme, even if you have a mature cadastre. And a parcel behavior, and here we see a reference to the vision, similar vision from Linz, New Zealand. How do we model a parcel behavior? Parcel has properties like its geometry, the name, size, and so on, but it can also have a behavior that can be modeled through the use of rules. And the rules can be things like the minimal size of a parcel, or the must have a unique identifier, the difference between the legal area and the geometry must be within tolerance, and so on. And those rules basically govern the quality of a parcel and make it behave and gives us the behavior. Now, when you design an information model, you go from the conceptual, something like LADM, to the physical. Those rules, those quality rules, should be part of the information model. We don't want to share the data or move it around and lose those behaviors. They should be part of the information model. And the type of common rules that we usually talk about are the topological rules, which relate to the geometry. Can the parcel overlap or not? Easements can, parcels cannot. Historic parcels can, current parcels cannot, and so on. We can talk about the properties, mostly attributes. It must have a unique identifier. The identifier must be such so and so long, must have those attributes, and so on. And then we can talk about the parcel measurement network and the spatial accuracy. And here, of course, we use least square adjustment to evaluate to detect outliers, evaluate the spatial accuracy, and also, of course, to improve it over time as new measurements come into the network. Here's an example of topological integrity. There's a missing point, missing boundary line, and an additional boundary line that should not be there. And when we evaluate, we immediately see those error features pop up, and we can see that there's a missing point. And we don't only show the problem, we also show for each problem a potential fix that might fix it. So if there's a missing point, we can just press create feature, and a point is created, and we have that. If there's a missing line, we can do the same, just create the feature, or we can delete those dangles, overshoots, and so on that should not be there. So this is on the example on the geometry side, common problems that we see, where the topology engine and those topology rules can be also configured easily because different customers have different requirements. Here's a new framework that mostly probably you're not aware of, called attribute rules. It's a few years old, allows us to define rules for calculation, constraint, and validation. And those are fully configurable and use very simple expression language to model them. So when we say area must not match, it can be within a tolerance. It can even have a formula behind it. And we use the same technology, this error inspector, to evaluate those rules. And immediately you can see the rules pop up, and this data has a lot of errors. Some data is not connected to its spatial source in LADM, what we call the record. Some might have measurements that do not match the geometry, whether it's distance or direction. It can also be X and Y coordinates if we talk about coordinate-based cadastre. And some might have an area that doesn't match the legal area. So all of those can be modeled, configured without any programming, and just used out of the box. The next framework that we have to evaluate is least square adjustment. Here we see a new subdivision, actually in Texas, that has a lot of measurements. And we can use least square adjustment. We use the open source DynaAdjust least square from Geoscience Australia, and a geoprocessing tool to evaluate the data. So it's a simple, and Tim might have time later to show it, as selecting the data, selecting the source, and just running it. And you can have it run in a free network adjustment, which is the consistency check, or you can have it run as a weighted constrained least square adjustment. And the result, instead of seeing those long text files that take forever to go over, we can in GIS just visualize them as features, as layers, and show different phenomena, whether it's error ellipses or outliers. Here we ran a free network adjustment. So those outliers are emphasized on the map, so they're easy to zoom into. And if we look and there's a georeference plat underneath, we can see why this line is so thick. This is an outlier. We can see the dimension of 526 feet, but we can see that the entered value was 532. So of course they don't match, and this is the reason why it was flagged as an outlier. So an easy way to detect outliers, also relevant for GL submission. We can also prevent bad data from being created. So on the left, you can see how everything is topologically moving together. Whether you move a point, a boundary, or a polygon, we can maintain those connectivity between the parcels and also between different parcel types. So if they all share the same corner point, they all move together. That could be buildings and parcels, that could be easements and so on. Any of your favorite 3 Rs vertically aligned together. And on the right, we see an example where we constrained a point and set it as fixed. If you try to move a point that is fixed, we just prevent you on a geodatabase level, on a very low level, from doing so. So it doesn't matter if you connect to it through the web browser or ArcGIS Pro or any other client, it will not move. And any feature connected to it, a boundary line, a parcel, will also not move. So preventing is better than finding that problem later. And we also know that cadastral data is the foundation for many other data sets. So in British Columbia, we have the parcel map BC, and I think there's a voice here, so I'm just gonna go quickly. And what happens, the parcel move, and then all the zoning layers go out of sync. And what we can do is basically generate parcel links from all those movements. We use the temporal nature of branch versioning and anchor points, and then we can apply it to other data sets like zoning, like administrative boundaries, and so on, and move them to where they should be. So we are able to keep different dependent data sets in alignment to the cadastral source, and you don't have to be in a cadastral agency to run it. You can be another agency. And the last and not least, QA should be part of, and QAC, quality assurance and control, should be part of the process and model into it. It starts with accountability. So we use editor tracking to know who created the feature, who modified it. We use a temporal nature. We can move back in time. So it's really 4D cadastre. We can move a version from one person to another. So you don't QA yourself, you move it to your peer and they approve it, and they have the permission to move it to the publication, to approve it and make it the new recorded part of the system of record. And if they don't like it, they can just delete the version and nothing happened. It's just a draft. And you can also apply a workflow management system and roles to move it formally between people and manage the workforce that way. So kind of quick conclusions. I hope I'm in time. Quality is crucial in every system of record, including Cadastral. Quality, it fits well with a fit for purpose. Everybody have their own business requirements and should model their partial behavior accordingly. And it must be configurable and not something you customize and hard to change, because requirements also change over time. And it should therefore live within the information model and not outside of the information model, so it can be exposed on all types of clients. And when you have good accountability and good transparency of your data, that of course helps promote trust with the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amir, so much for presenting. I think the visualization of all the layers really helps getting a better grasp of the quality of the SaaS. So thanks for showing. We do not have any questions yet from the audience, but I'm really wanting to ask them if there is anything you want to ask all the presenters, also the ones next coming up. Do not hesitate to drop them in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll be willing to come back to you. After Amir, we have Turkey ready. We have Okan Yildiz presenting on cadastral map data quality in Turkey. Are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, I'm ready. Hello, everybody. I'm from Turkey, Karadeniz Technical University. Firstly, I share my screen, I think. Yes. Yes.
Yes, we have a visual.
Yes. Did you see?
The presentation is working clear now. Yes. It's working in PDF modus, if you clicked on that one.
I try to upload my PDF. Did you see my PDF version?
Yes, if you use this version, that works fine. You have
Yes.
about 6
can I
minutes.
start? Can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. First, I will mention about original cadastral map data quality, but now we renote most of them. As you see from figure, cadastral activities in Turkey have been continued for a very long time by developing, renewing, and improving. In the works carried out during this period, the cadastral organization wanted to benefit from every innovation update in the profession. Technically, we can summarize the Turkish cadastral system 3 periods. The first period is written cadastral period. We haven't any cadastral map in this period. The second term is linear cadastral period. During this period, analog cadastral maps were started to be produced. The spatial accuracy of these maps can be seen in the table. As you see, we see sometimes 25 spatial accuracy, sometimes 1.73 spatial accuracy. The third period is the digital cadastral map cadastral period. With the development of neuron techniques in the world, digital cadastral maps have started to be produced in Turkey. 58 million parcel were produced as a result of cadastral works in Turkey at last century. However, approximately 70% of the produced data are analog data. So the data have temporary coordinates, but now most of them renovated. There are legally three methods in Turkey for the transformation of these data into fixed coordinates. These are correction, digitization, and updating. The most comprehensive method is cadastral updating. This method is similar to a classical cadastral procedure. In this method, data layers seen on the slide are collected. The most important of these layers are cadastral map, raster data of cadastral map. The second, temporary digitization results. And important data, current land measurement. The boundary tips in the cadastral update process are determined as a result of process made on computer. This process also the process of cadastral demarcation. In other words, the demarcation that started in the land is completed in the office. Thus, analog maps are upgraded. As a result of this process, we obtain fixed coordinates. While we are creating demarcation sketch, firstly, we use current measurement, fixed boundary, called fixed boundary. But we always can't reach fixed boundary on the land. In this case, secondly, we use original spatial data from original cadastral map. In this way, we create valid boundaries in terms of law. In some cases, the original spatial data may not be healthy. This time, we use area unit, so we create indeterminate boundaries. I briefly summarize this cadastral updating process. Absolutely, the process includes a lot of detail, but I haven't any time, so I briefly summarize. We wondered about distribution of these boundaries and conducted a research. Result of research published in Survey Review in 2020. In the research, we determined study area, firstly, including 249 updating projects from different provinces of Turkey, as you see Turkey maps. We calculated distribution of boundaries tips. As you see figure, rate of fixed boundary is about 46%. In this boundary, we see border facilities, for example, fence or wall, and measured them. Rate of valid boundary is about 39%. In these boundaries, there isn't any border facilities in the land. That's why we use original spatial data. Both border tips make up about 86% of the total. As for what is our last point in Turkey, according to the technical regulation in Turkey, the spatial accuracy of cadastral data is 7 centimeters. With the updating works carried out, 67% of the entire archive consists of fixed coordinates as of 2021. In a few years, this rate probably will reach 100%. Today, in the Turkish land registry and cadastral system, both the land registry data and spatial data of the cadastral are presented to stakeholders in an integrated manner in the land registry and cadastral information system and spatial property system. Yes, thank you very much. That's all, Mr. Ekman.
How
Mr.
you
Ekman,
the quality.
thank you
Yes,
very much
thank you.
for your helping.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Lightney. Lightney, are you ready to share your presentation on measuring data quality of cadastral data?
Yes, thank you, Sanna. I hope so. Do you hear me?
Yes, very well.
That's good. And I shared my presentation. Yes. Dear everyone, colleagues and friends, so nice to be at the FIG again. Today I will, let me see, talk about how to measure the quality of cadastral data, and I only have 5 minutes. So first, some fun facts about Norway. We have 11 counties and 356 municipalities. And in our cadastre, we have more than 3.3 million cadastral units and 2.4 million addresses and more than 4.3 million buildings. And we have 2 cadastral authorities. We have the Norwegian Mapping Authority, that's the central cadastral authority. And then we have the municipalities, and they are the local cadastral authorities who records all the data in the cadastre. The aim of the paper for this working week is the quality of cadastral data and how to measure it. And I first start, why do we need measure the quality of the data? And it's because the cadastre is important in the digitalization of processes in our society, and the data is not perfect. We need to improve it and know if we are going in the right direction. So therefore, we have to have some measurements. But what have we done after writing the FIG paper? We have used our time to get more reports on cadastral data quality and published them on our website. We have been updating the presentation for the FIG video, and we are now nearly at the end of the first public version of our strategy. And it will be published the 1st of July, but sadly only in Norwegian. So and the cadastral data, we have boundaries with poor, good, and good quality, and we have some fictitious boundaries, and they are marked with different colors in this map. And then we have the cadastral number, and we have road addresses, that's the blue text, and we have the building numbers. And I will now give some examples. For cadastral units, they can have only one parcel, as the first one here. They can have 2 parcels or more, and some are marked as a circle. In this example, it's leased land that is registered without an area, so they are just marked with a circle. But it can also be fictitious boundaries, as we found on this picture. And actually, we have more than 116,000 cadastral units with 1 or more fictitious boundaries. And we also have over 80,000 cadastral units without a parcel at all in the cadastre map. And that means we do not know where they are. Other if they have an address or a building we can do a search on. And we also have parcels registered with 2 or more cadastral numbers. When it comes to the addresses, they are supposed to have a road or street name and an address code, and an address number to every main entrance at street level, and in some cases also a dwelling number. And today we have more than 67,000 units with cadastral number as the address. That means they do not have a road or street name. When it comes to buildings, each building are given a 9-digit unique identification number, seen on the top on this picture. And this BID is given coordinates and linked with the address to the property. And when this is done, we can start to record different data fields, for instance, areas. And they are used for tax purpose and other purposes. And sadly, we miss some of these data. On this example, we have the usable area. That's have a good filling percent, only missing 7% of the area in buildings registered after 2010. But when it comes to the gross area, we have a lack of 84%. So what do we do to improve this? We have started our work with a strategy to improve the data quality. And the ambition is for the Cadastral to have the right data content and data quality necessary for processes that use cadastral data and for user needs. And we have defined 3 goals. That's to have a common practice for cadastral registration in all municipalities. We have the same regulations, legal regulations for all municipalities, but sadly we see different registration. And we want to improve the quality of priority areas or data fields. And the third goal is to streamlining the process for collecting and updating cadastral data. And to measure if we are going in the right direction, we now have started to have some key performance indicators. We provide a set of them, and they must be seen and used together. As an example of completeness, we have cadastral units without a parcel. We want to increase it. So we only have a lack of 1% for real property, 5% of leased land, and none of the farm commons. And I would be very glad if some of you have some input to give me on this, then I would be happy to know. And thank you for your attention.
That was a spot-on 7-minute presentation. Thank you so much, Lightning. And
Thank you.
You started with the question, why should we measure? Huh? Because we are in this digitalization of land measuring, and everyone is depending us on the cadasters and the mapping authorities to have all the right informations. But if you are an older cadastre and you have a history of maybe hundreds of years or tens of years, then it's a difficulty to get this quality of data sharp. So thanks for exploring fully on how you tackle that in Norway, and hopefully attendees come back to you later on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Meanwhile, I would like to ask the attendees to share a little bit in the chat. What are your thoughts on this? Where are you joining us from? And then hopefully some questions will rise. You can also use the Q&A for that. And then next up is Dennis, and he's already fully prepared, sitting there all the way from Bosnia-Herzegovina. Are you ready to share your presentation on data integration? Yes. Oh, I see an inception happening again. Good. Thanks so much.
Okay, I hope that everybody can see the screen and hear me well. Hello from my side again. My name is Denis Tabucic, and I come from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I've been actually the author of a paper called Data Integration and Interoperability of Public Land Administration Services in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's a paper actually not that technical and not so much similar with the previously shown presentations, but regardless, it does dwell well into the quality of cadastral registries and land registries that are currently under reform in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the paper, I hope that someone will have the interest in reading it in more detail thoroughly. But I would just highlight in this short presentation some key key things that we would like to share and facilitate some further discussion later on, I hope. So background information about our processes here, that there's a lot of coordinated approach, a lot of projects that are leading to the improvement in the land administration sector, a really, let's say, decentralized surroundings in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but actually those efforts are leading to improvements in the public service provision. And there's been successful work actually in establishment of accurate, up-to-date digital property registers that, due to these highly decentralized surroundings here, consist of real estate cadastre, land cadastre, and land registry. But we also have done some work on setting up accurate address registry, sales price registry, and that has actually attracted many stakeholders to our side. That has enabled us to continue with all these activities, with integrating our data and making our services interoperable in other government institutions. And actually, it's been government institutions that have used our data to raise efficiency within their own business processes, and they range from government agencies on several levels, including the government institutions on local level. That has actually led to prevention of duplication of data, issuance of correct data has been from authorized sources. We've helped actually in some cases in clear definitions of roles and jurisdictions among many other public institutions. And what that has led also to simplify some already existing public service provisioning and develop some new modern custom-oriented services. And I've talked about the reforms. I'll just quickly go through the most important reform results. And we actually believe that, and there's clear indicators on that we've developed a favorable business and investment climate, despite the fact that we have such a very complex dual administration system, and that was actually founded in the late 19th century. And all the land registries for the entire Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina have been digitized. Through project activities, more than 1.2 million owners and co-owners have so far registered their rights within our project activities, and that has actually improved the preconditions for a secure, legal real estate transactions and development of the overall country's economy. All the data is available online, including the cadastral and land registry data. And not to go into figures, but we record annually multi-million figures of those access to those services. And maybe the most painstaking job that we did is the interoperability of our systems, and that's the cadastral and land registry information system that's been ensured, and we are working on data interoperability. But we also ensured interoperability of our IT systems with the other systems, such as the digital archive, address registry, and the citizen registry systems. Also, to contribute to the overall reform, a number of land registry cadastral offices were renovated. That has also helped the quality of services, improve working environments, working conditions, and has greatly reduced the corruption and improved citizen satisfaction and perception of our services. And having a dual system of in the land administration, we have the painstaking task to make the land registry and the cadastre data harmonized, and that's been done for more than 55% of the total area. And so right now we have 55% land registry entries that are based on new cadastral survey. Looking at the cadastral data, more than 72% of the entire territory has been put into digital form, so vectorized. And as a consequence of setting up these IT systems, we have the ability to provide with gender disaggregated data on land and real estate ownership in the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also, as a consequence of these improvements and digitalization of data, we've managed to set up a system of sales price registers. So that's to monitor the real estate transactions. So right now we have public services for over 80,000 contracts already set up for our users, and also the information system of the address registry, where we cooperate with local government units, municipalities, and cities. And of the 79 in total, we have cooperations with 77, providing us with data to set up as a central service on the federal government level, and providing user services of any sort that they want. And support has come from different sources, mainly the World Bank project that are really helped the reform, but also we would like to mention that the support has come from the EU, also donor projects from Sweden, Norway, and Netherlands, whose NMCAs have really been involved in our work, having capacity building projects in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that's contributed to this success. And the conclusions are far broader in the paper, and somebody who would like to read it, but I've just wanted to have several ones that I think that are the key ones, and that we are currently in a status that services that are provided by the land administration institutions of Bosnia and Herzegovina are right now recognized as essential components of the infrastructure for the benefit of general public. And we are faced with a increasing demand of a better quality service, and it's something that's something that we consider to be the core of public sector reform and e-government strategies, to be able to provide with transparency and accountability of the institutions. And we also see the increasing need to analyze our customers, and we see now that the customers are aware that they want value for money services, and that's something very important, something that drives our changes. And we see that today customers of our services are not that different from any other customers in any other area, and they expect a very quality customer-oriented service that's accessible anytime, at any place, to different channels, and that's something that we really need to respond to those kinds of demands. And and we see that if we have to look at the trends, we see that there's an improving trend, because we every year we increase the number of services that are we increase the quality of services in a timely and easy to use customer oriented way, and that's we consider to be a proof of the continued development of land administration Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Yeah, I hope I've kept it under the time limit, and I'm looking forward to any discussions that we might have later on.
Perfectly in time, Dennis. Thank you so much. And as you stated about the customers, I think that's right. We all have our phones. We're also used to having up-to-date data 24/7, and that's very demanding from all the cadastral and mapping agencies to be a part of that and to have quality data up to date. I see Ludmila already fully ready for it.
Now it's time for Maestros, yeah?
Yes, Milka, you're up next. You can start sharing your screen, and I'll...
Okay, I share my screen. Yeah, share screen. And one moment. Is correct?
Yes, we all see perfectly fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to invite all of you for Congress 2022 to Poland. As you know, we are very happy, and we will do our best to satisfy you when you will come, and we hope all of you will come. And my presentation is written with two professors, Professor Paweł Hanus. Professor Paweł Hanus is a dean of the Geodesy Department, the Mining and Metallurgy Academy in Kraków, and Professor Andrzej Hopfer. He is a very known person in FIG. He is retired professor. And our topic is profession of land surveyors in the age of technological revolution. And we should distinguish these two words, geodesy and surveying. Geodesy in science, of course, we may discuss about this philosophical discussion, but geodesy is the science of measuring Earth as a planet, shape, size, movement, and so on. And surveying is measuring activity. But it is very important. One of these activity is legal status of real estate. And now we have two surveyors and two methods of surveying. One is usually much easier. It is typical surveying, and the person which should survey it is it's very often is enough that this person only know how to correct activation of the equipment do. And very often there is no thinking about surveying at all, because it is very easy. Now trained construction worker on a construction site is able to survey. But surveying of the boulders, it is very, very difficult, and it is needed for a license in a lot of countries, because it is not only how to activate of equipment, it is almost without meaning, but you should know where to survey and what to survey, not only how to survey. In many countries, it is needed license. In my country, Ada, someone on the chat wrote about license for drone. In my country, you have special license for drone, to use drones for our work, but now we have 7 typical survey licenses, and one of them is border surveys. And I use the word highway. A few years ago, when we meet each other during FIG Congress, usually we are talking about scanning, calibration, data acquisition, data processing, data storage, map digitization, and so on and so on. Now, we are talking still about Cadastral, because Cadastral is very, very important reference system for a lot of systems. But we are talking about laser scanning, cadastral purpose, orthophoto maps, 3D view. I saw yesterday and today a few presentations about it. And it is easy almost in real time to have on a different job portal scanning orthophoto maps. But the most important, it is very good reference system, but the most important, of course, is cadastral parcels. I am going to say you why. And we have internet highway, portals, everything. When you look around in your computer, in a website, you see a lot of portals. I am talking about portals, governmental or municipalities portals. They're usually local. We have local portals, regional and national. One of the most popular in my country portal is GeoPortal, established and maintained by our Surveyor General of Poland. It is increasing very, very quickly. It's very interesting. And what is the most important for a lot of owners, not only owners, but people which have an activity in business, it is a lot of data is released. We have a lot of free data on GeoPortal. You may earn money using this data. Nobody is able to say you are not allowed, because according to our regulation, a lot of data are released. They are free data. It is a website of our GeoPortal. It's very interesting, and it is geoportal.gov.pl. And here it is important that you may see how popular is this GeoPortal. First, you see coronavirus, later business, later register of business activity, and the fourth one is GoPortal. And think more user every day in this GoPortal, using government use it, business use it, education, everybody. What we have on GeoPortal? What is important? We have almost everything. I am not going to read. You see it. but the last sentence you see many more, and a lot of points. How it works? I think that a lot of portals nowadays in the world works as web map services. What it means that GeoPortal not collect the data. GeoPortal only give you answer when you ask about something, and the question what you are asking about is going straight to municipality, to region, to region GeoPortal, and here you have answer, and you have everything with one place, together with different governmental geoportals. What it means in the same times, what is dangerous? You have a lot of data. Of course, it is very important. You should have any redundancy of this data. It should be avoided. But it is public portal, and it means that all of us may reach this portal to use it. What problems it creates? It creates problems that landowners is able to check all of his parcel, not only parcel, location of building, measuring everything, or have area or different data which he needs, and what he's able to do, he's able to put it in his smartphone and go to the or go and check his boundary. And where is this problem? Problem is that a few presentations before in this session, not only this session, but last days and last years, is still about data collecting, data measuring, and so on. And of course, one of the most important, a lot of map digitization. It means that these coordinates are not correct, because the correct coordinates are in documents. These documents are in different register which we used. One of these today presenter, it was from Dutch, Ami Barmaur, showed us this large pile of materials, and guys from Ukraine will tell us probably about digitization these materials, and it is easy to have everything in computer, but in the same times owners have the same data. But yeah.
And I just want to interrupt really shortly to tell you that you're a little bit over time. Could you wrap up?
Okay, I will go ahead. And the most important is that that this data is different than in data in this pile of documents. We have in Poland about 20,000 licensed surveyors. And what later, what I said is that owner has this smartphone, and he is able to have a range of several dozen centimeters during his own measuring. But there is nothing about these coordinates which are in documents. What it means? It means that survey is very important, but still less needed in the market, because a lot of branch have used as this train construction worker on a construction site, which measuring yourself or his company. No surveyor. Surveys is needed to explain what is on this data, and to analyze them, on this data, how this data should be compared with what is in documents, and analyze the documents, explain. But it is still a problem, because owners try to say that correct boundary is this one which he see in GeoPortal. And that's all. I am almost in time, I hope. Thank you for your attention.
I was almost about to cut you off, Milka, because we only have half an hour left. Time is flying on this.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It was very interesting, and I think it's a big challenge with all the data that is available to make sure that we can also know what the quality is of all this data that is free in our hands. I will quickly give the stage to Martin from Denmark, and I would like to ask the participants to still share their questions in the chat. And Chetna also prepared a Slido, so please let us know where you're from. And then Martin, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. I hope you can see my screen and you can hear me. My name is Martin Hallaisi, and I'm a surveyor at the Danish Geodata Agency. And as we have heard from this other presentations, quality of cadastral data is an important matter, because cadastral data is basic data, and it's used in many different ways and for many different purposes. Therefore, it's important that the cadastral data can be trusted. However, it can be difficult to trust information from a cadastre if it's obvious do not show the legal boundaries. In Denmark, we have an aim to improve the quality of coastal boundaries in the cadastral map. And here you see a picture from a beach in Denmark. Denmark is a small country in Europe with more than 7,300 kilometers of coastline. The coastline is dynamic and it's constantly changing, caused by natural growth and withdrawal, which affect the boundaries and the sizes of properties. The reason of that is the definition of property boundary in Denmark, because it's defined as the highest daily water level line. The coastal boundary lines do not always match the actual coastline. The quality of coastal boundary lines in the cadastral map compared to current conditions are very varying. The boundary lines are registered at different times, with some being registered more than 100 years ago, while others have been newly registered. However, the coastline is also changing with varying paces. Overall, the users of cadastral data request an updated coastline in the cadastral map, and I'm going to show a few examples of that. The coastal zone contains many different interests, and the precise location of boundaries along the coast is an important information for many users of cadastral data. An improved and updated coastline in the cadastral map will support a more correct and reliable use in broader non-cadastral contexts. For example, you see here is an area outside the cadastral map, and it's difficult to find out who is the owner of this land. And here you can not be sure if the registered size of a property is correct. And we also have examples of parcels where we don't know if they exist anymore. And then in Denmark we also have a beach protection zone registered in the cadastre, and it's only showed if the area is in the cadastre, so it can be difficult to know if the beach protection zone also is outside of the cadastral line. And another question is, how does all these factors affect a new model for property assessment? Because we have a new property evaluation in Denmark, and they requires precise and current geographical data. So now I will take a look at how it's possible to change coastal boundary lines due to natural changes of the coastline. It's optional for the property owners to decide whether registered coastal boundaries in the cadastre are going to be changed or not. Registration of new or changed boundaries is cadastral work, and this requires a licensed land surveyor in practice. And change of registered boundaries due to natural coastal growth or withdrawal may be registered through a rectification of boundaries, and it requires a signed declaration from the landowner. And sometimes it also requires a declaration from the adjacent landowners. And all the costs related to this work from the land surveyor has to be paid by the landowner. Therefore, the Danish Geodata Agency launched a pilot project in 2018 with two main objectives. One of the objectives was to investigate whether owners of coastal properties were willing to have the cadastral registration corrected if it was free of charge from the owners. And we also wanted to investigate if any changes or potential for improve with the legislation according to achieve a better quality in the cadastre. The method we used was to gather a practical experience from the land surveyor's work through a rectification of coastal boundaries, and we selected some areas with different kinds of coastline. And the participation in the project was with no cost from the owners, and it was voluntary to participate. And here I'll just show you some examples from the 7 areas. Here you see there's a large area that is out in the sea, but it's not registered in the cadastre. These 7 areas included 41 kilometers of coastline, and there was 172 real properties. Yeah, and here you actually see these are properties out in the ocean, so they doesn't exist anymore. Yes, and here's some results from the project. Even though 78% of the possible properties participate, a conclusion is that it's not possible to make a national-wide rectification of all coastal boundaries in accordance with the applicable rules. There seems to be no quick shortcuts to achieve this national improvement in the cadastral map. So we see a possible solution is to introduce administrative and technical change of registered coastal boundary lines who could be made by the coastal authority without any declarations from the affected owners. But this requires a legal basis in the Subdivision Act to make this possible. So this is something we are working with at the moment.
Thank you, Martin. Could you wrap up?
Sorry, could you say it again?
I said, could you wrap up? But you're already there, so thanks.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it's a big challenge, and I was wondering if you do the pilot now, do you then have to repeat it again in 10 or 20 years because the coastline is always moving?
Yeah, it's always moving. So if we make this new coastline, we have to look at it every 5 years or something like that to see how big it changes.
A great challenge. Thanks for sharing. We have Andri waiting. Andri, are you ready to share your presentation?
Yes.
And you have to be very sharp on time. You have 7 minutes sharp.
Okay. Just a moment. Can you see my presentation? Can you see my presentation now?
Yes, and we hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. So, dear colleagues, my name is Andrei Martin. I'm the head of the Land Use Planning Department in the National University of Life and Environmental Sciences of Ukraine, and I made this research on using registers of land surveying documentation to study the land surveying industry in Ukraine with my colleague, Professor Taras Yevsyukov. Just a small background, Ukraine has done one of the most ambitious land reforms in Europe because we reformed more than 20,000 collective farms of the socialist type, created almost 7 million of new land holdings with an area about 27 million hectares. And additionally, we have privatized more than 13 million of land plots for individual resident building and so on. All those transformations in the land use and land ownership were done on the basis of some land surveying documentation. In Ukraine, starting since 2004, all archives of land surveying documentation have received the legal status of so-called state fund on land surveying documentation, for which is responsible the State Service of Ukraine for Geodesy, Cartography, and Cadastral. And sure, they have done some kind of registers of all documentation in the archive, and those registers usually, as I think in the many countries, were used just for searching and delivering surveying documentation to the customers, land surveyors, landowners, local authorities, and so on. As a result of our study, we've made a digital database of the register of land surveying documentation. And in this database, we have inputted more than 9 million of unique data on land surveying documentation. And this database is mostly related to the land surveying documentation, which was done for the last 30 years, because Ukraine do not recognize the property ownership rights, which were before the gaining of independence. So only very small amount of land surveying documentation we have that was done before 1991. We have made a very big database with all the documentation which we have in our archives. So it had a unique number, the name of this documentation, and wherever we have this documentation in digital or only paper form. Because we have done this study first time in Ukraine, we have such statistics and findings. So almost 50% of all documentation that land surveying documentation which we have in our archives, that was the documentation related to registration of legal titles to land plots, which is very typical for active phase of land reform. So 28% of all stored documentation that just restoring was made for restoring of the boundaries of the land plots. Usually such kind of documentation in Ukraine is done to register land plot in the digital land cadastre. And almost 15% of documentation in archives, it's documentation for formation of new plots, creation of new plots, division, merging land plots, or changing the function or purpose of land. So all other types of land surveying documentation, because we have up to 30 different types of land surveying documentation, that's just a small part of documentation that we have in archives. So using this data, we actually can study how active was land surveying market in my country. So on this diagram, you can see that we had a peak of development of land surveying industry in our country in 2009. So that was the biggest amount of land surveying documentation was produced. The main reason for this was because starting from 2008, we had some kind of governmental program to help citizens to register their land titles, and because of this there were a lot of land documentation created because government just financed this. After that, you can see that we have a slow reducing of land surveying documentation, which is developed annually. Using this data, we can also see what kind of documentation were developed in different years, in different decades. So this gives us actually a very interesting analytics, which types of land surveying services becomes more interesting or less interesting for the customers. So now, for example, we can see that the documentation which is done, for example, for establishing boundaries or registering boundaries in cadastral is decreasing, but the number of documentation which is usually done to change the purpose of land or to divide the existing land plots is increasing every year. So what are the main conclusions that we have done in our study? So first of all, electronic catalogs of archival land surveying documentation can be used not only for searching and delivering land survey documents to consumers, but also we can indirectly assess the level of development of land surveying industry, both in national and regional dimension, because we have all this research sure done also in regional and district aspect. Over the past 3 decades, Ukraine's land management industry was primarily focusing on serving the land reform and ensure the processes of mass privatization of land and registration of titles. But this data that we have received can be used to predict local markets for land surveying services, as well as monitor market trends, because we have to understand that land surveying industry has to be flexible. We have to adapt to needs of our customers. And only when we analyze this mass data on how the land surveying documentation can be produced, then we can see the trends and adapt the surveying businesses that we have in our country. So today in Ukraine, the surveying business, it's up to 3,000 of certified land surveyors, which do their job. And we now understand that the need for registering of land titles will decrease, and sure, the new interesting tasks for land surveyors are growing. First of all, related to spatial planning, related to solving different environmental issues, and sure, the parcellation, the creation of new land plots, dividing existing land holdings. So I was trying to be as short as possible. So that's all I wanted to say in my presentation.
It's perfect, André. Thanks. And I think the needs had to fulfill the customer and to help with predicting what's going to happen in the future is a big challenge for a lot of cadasters and what other mapping authorities will recognize themselves in. So thanks for sharing. I think we're going to try Tim one more time if he can share his screen again and see if we can get it working.
Sure. I think what I'll try this time is I'll just do slides and just kind of talk about the least squares with the slides.
Oh, I thought you had frozen, but you're just sitting really quiet and still. That's
So Just going to talk about the least squares engine and how the parcel fabric has been used to integrate a new Dynadjust engine that was developed by Geoscience Australia, and it was made as an open source, published on a GitHub repository in August of 2018. So that's relatively recently. And in a version of Parcel Fabric 2.6, we integrated this technology into the Parcel Fabric. And there are two adjustment types that we use, the one being a consistency check, which Amir talked about earlier. And this is just a free network adjustment, and it checks the parcel dimensions for mistakes and blunders. It's a very powerful tool to check for your quality in your dimension data on your boundary lines. And then also the weighted least squares adjustment, which incorporates the use of the coordinates on control points. And it uses these points and dimensions to compute these updated coordinates and also evaluate to improve the spatial accuracy. It is implemented as two separate tools. The first one is an analysis tool. So it generates a series of lines and points that are not that are copied from the parcel fabric, so they don't update the parcel fabric directly. They simply are used to report the results from the least squares adjustment, and this includes vectors, error ellipses, and information about the reliability of points, point coordinates. And then the second tool allows us to actually apply the vectors that are generated from the least squares adjustment. So this does actually update the parcel fabric point locations. So one of the key elements of bringing a least squares analysis into a GIS system with layers is its power to visualize the information. So a typical adjustment results, analysis results is text files. And
I'm sorry to interrupt, Tim, but there seems to be going wrong with your screen sharing. We see the full PowerPoint, but not the part where, not the slides that you're talking about. So we are still at the first slide. So I think the wrong screen is shared.
Okay. How about now? What do you see?
Now I still see you. We just had the PowerPoint, but not the presentation mode, so to say.
I see. Okay.
And Amir informed me that's probably 3 at night for you.
Yeah, it's 3 in the morning. So
that's an awful time to wake up, Tim. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I do see the PowerPoint now, but it's not the presentation mode. But if this works for you, then that's fine.
Wow. Okay. All right. So basically, the typical result of a least squares adjustment is these text files of adjustment analysis results. But really, what we want to be able to do is visualize this analysis using the layers from the GIS. And so here we can see some information about where we're using our cartographic tools to present the spatial accuracy information. At a small scale, when we zoomed out, we can see things like heat maps to show where positional uncertainty, with low accuracy areas or high accuracy areas. In this case, the high accuracy areas in blue and the low accuracy areas in red. And also at the medium scale, we can see point shift vectors of where points need to move. And that zooming into kind of a larger scale, we can see the error ellipses on the individual points themselves. And that is it. And I'm not going to try to do anything more. So I thank you for your time and appreciate that. And I apologize for the technical difficulties.
No, don't apologize, Tim. It happened to all of us during this e-working week and times in COVID. But thanks for sharing so fully. And I hope you get some sleep too afterwards. For the presenters whom are willing to, I saw there were some questions in the chat, but we are running a little bit out of time. I saw there was a question for Lightning from Norway, but she already answered it in the chat. So thanks for that. There was another question for Milka. What is your view on fit-for-purpose land administration in relation to the standards published by FID? If you could comment on that.
Yes, in my country we have this problem quite often because we have special to land use utility, this how to say water flow and seawater and the line of it, and we have a lot of training what to do about it, and we have special regulation. First of all, always it is important where is this line of not only water, we call it seashore. Where is this line? And according to this, we should measure this line and put it into Cadastral, but there is the beginning of the owners. It is not the same time if water take your part of your parcel, it means that the owner is in the same time. It is regulation that the water is it belongs to government, but you have to do a lot about it. But in the same time, 3 years ago, we have new regulation about what is exactly asked about this changing of the line of the sea, because we have regulation where is the exactly coordinates of this line. And according to this coordinates, Staros put it into Cadastral, and now it is obligate. It doesn't matter whether water change the line or not. It is my answer.
That was a question for Martin also, Milka, but thanks for responding so fully. Martin, do you want to go into that really shortly? If the line of the sea changes, do the boundary properties change too?
Yeah, the property is changing too, but it's not the requirement to register the new boundary. But due to the definition of the boundary lines towards the sea, it's the highest water level line. So yeah, the boundary is changing when the sea is changing, but it's not registered.
Thanks. That's a very clear answer. And I think we are also, we made it 90 minutes of talking about quality for quality management in cadastral surveying. And we are not done talking yet. I would like to invite all of you, all the presenters and also the attendees still watching, to follow us to the Ask Me Anything session. That's a separate session where you as an attendee can also come to the screen and share your thoughts on quality management, and maybe you do it different in your country or where you work at, and we are very curious about that. So I want to give a big thanks, and some of the speakers already left due to very challenging time zones that we are all in this worldwide e-conference, but I want to give a big thanks to Tim Hudson from the USA, whom hopefully went to bed. We still have Amir with us here from the Netherlands. Thank you. Okan from Turkey, who also left the building. And then we still have Like Me here with us all the way from Norway. We had a presentation from Dennis from Bosnia-Herzegovina. We had a presentation from Milka from Poland. And I can see Dennis is still in the building. Thanks for joining. Martin from Denmark and Andriy from Ukraine. And that was a wrap on quality management in cadastral surveying. We'll continue in the Ask Me Anything session. I think the link will be dropped in the chat, or I'm not sure where to sign, but it will be dropped in the chat. I hope to see you there, and then we can continue the discussion for a little bit and actually have a face-to-face conversation. Have fun during this e-working week. We're only halfway there, and I hope to see a little bit of you more. Bye.